Tom Silver is a noted local hypnotherapist, hypnotist. He's been doing this for a long, long time. You have worked for governments. You have worked for military, correct?
Yes.
All right.
I worked for the Taiwan Department of Defense, the Secret Service, and I worked on forensic hypnosis investigation, hypnotizing witnesses, active military procurement officers, and imprisoned officers, hypnotized them against their will to get the truth out of them. Wrote a book on forensic hypnosis investigation.
And you still do this right now. And
I still do this,
And
yes.
you do this, tomsilver.com is your website.
Correct.
And you have people locally that you'll talk to?
Well, yes, I actually do hypnotherapy sessions on people that are, believe it or not, addicted to marijuana and other types of drugs. I work with fears and phobias, post-traumatic stress disorders, weight loss, and the whole gamut. And I also do internet sessions. So I work on Skype, and I hypnotize people interactively all around the world.
Before we dig into the Kavanaugh mess and hypnosis and so much more, I got an email from Kreskin. It's been a while since I've interviewed Kreskin, but Kreskin says there is no such thing as hypnosis, and he continues to insist there is no such thing. What would you say?
Well, I would say that Kreskin is incongruent in what he's saying, because in one aspect he's saying there's no such thing as hypnosis. The other aspect, he's constantly hypnotizing people, putting them into a receptive state and actually altering, brainwave activity through suggestion, leading suggestion, which is hypnosis. When he does the mentalism and he's holding on to someone's wrist or part of their arm, what he's doing is he's monitoring the changes, the micro changes in the nervous system. And so if he turns a person left, he's going to get a different reading of the pulses, and that tells him which way to go. So he's really not doing what we call mind reading or anything like that, mentalism. He's monitoring the micro changes in the nervous system.
I figure if the government people are writing you hot checks and giving you awards, there must be something to this. Okay?
Well, it's definitely a real science. It's been used by doctors for hundreds of years. It's been used in hospitals, the Mayo Clinic, and it's an established science. In the 50s, the American Medical Association, Psychological Association, and Dental Association all recognized hypnosis. Even one of the popes actually formally recognized the science of hypnosis as for healing people and helping people.
Now then, let's talk then about what you saw, the performances on camera, as we have various people recounting. I was held down and tried to take my clothes off. We're talking about the Kavanaugh deal, and this was there was that gut. She was in many ways kind of convincing, but yet I would see some of her background and I would question it. So I want to make sure that I take this out of the realm of my political bias. Okay.
Okay.
You are a hypnotherapist.
Yes.
What did you see when you saw Christine blah blah Ford, doing her thing?
Well, number one, I am an expert in memory, in conscious memory, in subconscious memory, in short-term and long-term memory. And number one, I believe that her accounting of the incidents that she claims occurred 35 years ago included what we call confabulation. And the confabulation is the distortion of the memory, or the putting in of ideas, memory ideas that did not really exist pertaining to Kavanaugh, or maybe events of certain sexual challenges that she had during the intoxicated states that now have got kind of mixed in like a goulash of memories, so to speak. But I do believe that she believes it's true. I do believe in her mind she believes it's true, or she went to pass, if we saw the facts, she went to pass the lie detector, which monitors disturbances in the autonomic nervous system. But I don't believe that what she is claiming actually occurred. I think it's been fabricated. And I can tell you why, if you want to know.
All right. I will posit something. This is Conspiracy Theory Thursday, Tom.
Yes.
So I'm going to figure that what we're looking at is a deep state hit. And would I be right or wrong about something like that? Or is it a good theory?
I think this is like another one of those witch hunts. And, personally, I'll tell you my political views, which are totally different than my wife's. My wife. I'm only married right now once. I have been married before.
Oh, okay, very good.
Okay,
now that we've settled that.
I want to clarify that.
All right.
But I do believe what this is a conspiracy. And it's to undermine anyone that is going to be nominated for the Supreme Court that has what we might say conservative views. And the fact is that she gave this information, what, to the Republicans? No. She presented it to the Democrats 35 years later. This is just one of those witch hunts again. And I think a lot of people that are claiming sexual abuse or someone touched me inappropriately, and I do believe a lot of that is true, but I believe a lot of it is prefabricated for some other end result, which could be money, which could be notoriety and fame, or it could be for discrediting a really reputable human being.
Okay, now that's really scary to think that that people could then be taking a memory and mixing it up in their mental Cuisinart.
Absolutely.
And but I guess, but we see this happen all the time in real life. I think about things that I did in my childhood that I have romanticized. Hey, you know, I remember with that one girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. Yep. And then you'll talk to someone and who was disconnected from it or not, you know, who wasn't me.
Yep.
And they'll say, Bill, that's not what happened at all. It was more like along this. And then, really? And that was it? And then you start setting up that self-doubt in there. But this is not uncommon. This is a part of human nature, I guess.
Well, let me give you an example. It just happened to me the night before last with my wife. Perfect example, folks, and this is the truth. Okay, so my wife ordered these two cabinet shelves, plastic shelves, okay? So one of the shelves she ordered came in the other day. I put it in the house and left it in a box by the side of the door, okay? It was there. I sent some stuff out for FedEx, but I left the box. She said, make sure you don't, by mistake, get rid of that box. So the next day, she comes in and tells me that box is missing. I go out there and there's the box. She says, that's the second box that came in that I put there. And I said, what? She goes, yeah. She goes, what did you do with the box? Now she's making me believe that I did something with that first set of drawers. Really, to the point where I thought, where did I put it? I'm looking at the garage. I'm looking at my therapy room.
So you yourself bought into the suggestion.
I bought into the suggestion because she believed it was true. So it made me think, you know, she's an honest person. It's true. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out where it was. So we went to bed that night. I was concerned that I must have done something to this box because the other box there was not the same box. I even looked at the new box and thought it was a new box. I thought it looked different than the old one. So the next morning, because long-term memory, short-term memory gets transmitted into long-term memory while you're sleeping, the next morning she woke up and she goes, oh, I remember. She went out to her car and that new box was in the car. So she wholeheartedly thought that I lost a box that she never took out of the car. And that was just the other day. So how quickly do we forget, even when we're not intoxicated? But if you put intoxication into it.
Let's go to that next. Hypnotherapist Tom Silver with us here on Conspiracy Theory Thursday. And we wanted to talk about some of the people who have claimed to have been attacked by Kavanaugh, but then they're involving drinking, parties, blackout drinking episodes. In fact, some people are accusing him of blackout drinking episodes.
Yeah, and my question is, if some of these accusations by these ladies, if they really believe that these parties were parties to gang rape, like it says in writing, gang rape female victims who are intoxicated, why the hell are they going to these parties if they already know these parties are set up for that, you know?
Well, you are bringing up a common sense question that has not been answered adequately. I mean, if I was going to a party and I was seeing a woman gang raped every time at a different time and I kept going back, I would question my own sanity. But
well, you would question your own sanity, or what is the motive for you also going to that party? Let's face it, alcohol takes down inhibitions. I couldn't help myself. I got drunk and he sexually abused me. But, you know, is that always the truth? That's what we got to find out. Is that always the truth? Or is there a secondary reward for getting intoxicated to now, you know, crave to have a sexual action and then use that as an excuse? I got drunk. Let's talk about memory, because this is important.
All right.
Any questions so far?
No, you're doing great here, Tom. We wanted to go into confabulation and actually delve into that more deeply, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about intoxication and memory. This is real important. This is facts, medical scientific facts from neurosurgeons and neurodoctors, neurologists about intoxication. Okay, so let's talk about memory. First of all, what happens with memory? We have sensory information. In other words, I'm looking at you, Bill. I'm seeing you. Auditorily, I'm hearing our communication. So that information, that sensory information, touch, it automatically instantly gets downloaded or encoded into short-term memory. So then from short-term memory, how we acquire long-term memory is that encoding goes from short-term memory over a period of time into long-term memory. But not every memory gets encoded into long-term memory. And did you know, folks, that the encoding takes place a lot of times while you're sleeping? Why did Suzanne wake up in the morning knowing that that box was in the car? It got encoded.
Yeah, in the overnight
the
overnight sleep. I guess this also goes why it's important to have a good night's sleep. It improves your memory too.
Well, absolutely. Right? And they always talk about that, but it also is a way of transferring the data from short term to long term. But here's where the process gets interrupted: alcohol. And I'm talking intoxication. I'm talking binge drinking. I'm not always talking blackout. You don't have to be in a blackout. We all know that a blackout state is an amnestic state. It's a state where amnesia occurs. It is a chemical trance state where you have no recollection of what you've done. In that state, that memory does not get encoded into the long-term memory. It is completely erased and forgotten.
So let me then focus back on what was claimed at the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing stand.
Yeah.
The very fact that any of them were drinking, and most likely to the point of intoxication, shouldn't that, in effect, negate a lot of what we hear? Because it was probably never properly encoded and implanted in memory in the first place.
Right. It was the objective of encoding short-term memory into long-term memory gets completely disturbed or never even happens under intoxication. That is a scientific fact. But let's talk about Ford.
Okay.
She was intoxicated during this event. Now, I'm sure it wasn't the very first. And again, I'm not saying that sexual abuse with females or males doesn't happen. I had a woman try to sexually abuse me when she was drunk years ago. And she was married to the guy from the hypnosis school that I was trained at. So this can happen both for females and males. Let's not forget that we as men can also be sexually touched or attacked or violated. So Dr. Ford was intoxicated during this event. Now, I wasn't there, so I can only make an assumption that she was probably drinking quite a bit, and she had some really strong alcohol intoxication.
Well, she claimed one beer, I think is what she was talking about.
Yeah, but it's like asking a smoker, how many cigarettes do you smoke? I smoke 5 a day, but they're smoking a pack. Does everyone always tell you the truth? Doctors will tell you that almost every patient that comes in is telling you a partial truth. But the fact is also, let's look at this too. She had they used a lie detector on her, so confabulation. She believes it's true.
And that's all that matters in a lie detector, if you believe it.
If you believe it. And let's face it, sociopaths and psychopaths believe what they're saying a lot of times. Even the mass serial killers might not even have recollection of what they've done and could pass a lie detector test. So a lie detector test is not used as court evidence, but it might be a maybe indicator. But let's face it, she could have had, I'm just speculating, she could have had sexual encounters at other parties. Maybe, there's family sexual incest, sexual acts that occur in quite a few people, a large population of females and males. So she could have maybe had something occur at another event, another party. You're in high school, you're drinking. How many people drink and sometimes overdrink?
And then through confabulation, it ends up being distorted. This is part of it. It gets distorted over time. Comes out 35, 33, 34, 35 years later in a couples therapy session, and we don't really know what the methodology was for that.
Well, we do. Notes from therapy sessions. What the hell is a therapy session? Did someone hypnotize her? Was the therapy session the therapist and psychologist implanting suggestion into the patient when she was speaking to him? So who raped you? Who sexually touched you? I've already implanted a suggestion that someone raped. Yeah, it's a leading suggestion
that you've been raped.
So,
yeah, sure.
So just by the fact that notes from her therapy sessions that included mentions of rape attempt, mentions, that's more than one. So if she says mentions, that must mean that an indicator to me that maybe these things occurred more than one time. Maybe she was at many parties and drinking, losing inhibitions. And so this is all speculation, but it's all fabricated memory. 35 years later, in whatever intoxicated state she was, the memory has already been contaminated.
And I think that is the important takeaway from this, Tom. It's not that nothing happened to her. We're not saying that. But there's been so much time that has gone between then and now. So many different memories, so many different experiences.
Yes.
You can't tell. You can't prove it or disprove it, one way or the other.
You can't prove it or disprove it. And the fact is, it has created an emotional disturbance. Whatever her sexual encounters or abuse occurred in the past, because it could have been anything, anybody, she needed to release it somehow. And this would seem to be the perfect time for her to release it against a candidate that she's probably a Democrat and he's a conservative. Why did it come out 35 years later, right here and right now, versus all that other time or therapy or anything else? That to me is a conspiracy.
All right, Tom, appreciate the take on it. I have practically no time left here.
We got to talk about Deborah Ramirez.
Okay, can you hold on here? We might have to hold you on through another segment, okay? Can you hang on? All right, it's 7:57, KMED and KCMD. I'm speaking with Tom Silver, hypnotherapist, local hypnotherapist, on Conspiracy Theory Thursday. It's 11 after 8. A great Conspiracy Theory Thursday guest, Tom Silver, noted local hypnotherapist, TomSilver.com, and he has worked, like I mentioned before, if you missed the segment last hour, he's worked for the military, he's worked for foreign governments to try to delve into the truth and get someone to talk without torturing them, right? Is that
absolutely? Probably most accurate memories can come out under hypnosis. I've been on TV shows, The Doctors, Discovery Channel, Montel, The Sally Show, Jimmy Kimmel Live. So, I really have the reputation of what I do because I've explored and created scientific methods of neuroscience hypnosis.
And so it's certainly more than just, hey, we want you to stop smoking or stop eating so much, which is, of course, a great use for it, don't get me wrong here. But we were talking about the Kavanaugh performances and how much wiggle room there is for doubting what we've been told, even though we have many people who come forward who truly appear to believe what they're saying, some of the claims. And you, as a professional hypnotherapist, wanted to, I guess, for lack of a better term, debunk, or at least say you have to be very careful before you just all of a sudden believe very old allegations.
Right. I just wanted to give some other ideas that might be what these memories are. I'm just surprised that the politicians and the FBI have not investigated the effects of alcohol intoxication or the implanting of false memory or creating a false memory.
Now, what do you mean the implantation of a false memory?
Well, let's put it this way. I've been in the field of hypnosis for 35 years. Certain people, I can hypnotize them through talk and through confusion or different methods, and then I can implant a memory that becomes a memory recorded in their subconscious mind. I can create a hallucination or an implanted memory that they would think really happened. I could take someone, a receptive person, hypnotize them, and under hypnosis, tell them at a certain date their father came in the room while they were sleeping and sexually raped them. And then I can erase the fact that I implanted that suggestion. And I could tell them at 10 o'clock in the morning when they wake up, at 10 o'clock, that repressed memory is going to come up because that was the truth. And there you go. Now the father is falsely accused. They pass a lie detector test. They totally believe it.
Because they believe it. And that's the whole idea. And that's why they don't admit lie detector tests in court, because it's not a matter of whether you lied, it's whether you believe what you said.
Right, and a lot of people believe their lies to the point that they have convinced themselves it's the truth, just like memory. Let's talk about Deborah Ramirez, can we, for a moment?
Sure. Now, Deborah Ramirez, was she the one that was talking about the male sex organ being waved in her face?
Yeah, she said that this sex organ was put in front of her face. This is what she said when she was interviewed. She also said that she was drinking at the time of the incident and there were gaps in her memory. There are gaps in the memory. Who fills in the gaps?
The imagination.
The imagination. The person or the leading suggestions from the person questioning her or interviewing her. So right there, that already discredits that memory. She also says that, students were yelling certain things, and she was at these parties where everyone was drinking. Again, if she's going to these parties knowing what the boys are doing or what's going on or what the girls are doing, what motivated her to go to these parties. But the biggest factor is I was drinking. She doesn't say how much she was drinking, but the memory already has been distorted.
So it's already been distorted. This is already a fruit of the poison tree.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it shouldn't be admissible as any evidence or facts because it's not accurate.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk
now,
about...
Now, I would also add that there would seem to concur, or at least how we can agree with some of this just outside of hypnosis, is that practically every witness that has been said to have been present at these parties, no matter who these accusers are saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never been to that party. I have no idea. What are you talking about? I wasn't there. And yet you're saying that I was there. As far as that memory said that I was there, and I was not there.
Well, there you go. And that's also proof. The other thing is with contaminated memory or witness memory, which is distorted, you can have 10 people witness a crime on Main Street in Medford. And they could be interrogated by the police. You will get 10 completely different answers.
From the exact same incident.
From the exact same incident. Different colors of the purse, different from the guy having facial hair to no facial hair or long hair to being bald. Yeah, it's their interpretation is even colored and distorted.
Isn't that one of the reasons why, when you scientifically dig into it, eyewitness testimony is so difficult to believe in many cases?
Absolutely. Plus the leading contaminated questioning from the investigators, leading suggestion. And if I lead on a suggestion, McMartin School was the same thing in LA. All these kids.
Oh, is that the one with the, what's he, raping the kids supposedly?
Raping the kids, yeah. And so one kid said that a teacher touched her inappropriately after being questioned through a psychologist, leading suggestion in a hypersuggestible state of a child. Next thing, they bring in a group of psychologists. Now, pretty soon, they said every kid has been sexually violated by all the teachers. The judge threw it out of court. Contaminated memory, implanted suggestion. But let's talk about Julie Swetnick. She also claimed that, she was at these parties, and she said that he was physically aggressive at these parties. She says that at these house parties, everyone was drinking. Everyone that was drinking, she says everyone was drinking, meaning she was also drinking.
So, meaning, the moment there's alcohol in it, you've said that scientifically we're talking about contaminated memory and recall.
Exactly. And the fact is that she says that they were given drugs and alcohol that caused girls to lose their inhibitions and ability to say no. So the question is, again, during a series of house parties, what is she going to these parties? What's her motivation at that point? And what's the motivation right now?
Well, could have been enjoying herself, I guess.
Right.
And I don't want to go there necessarily.
Right.
But
is it to denounce Kavanaugh so he doesn't become a Supreme Court judge? Is it to make money? I really don't know. But I want people to think about that. Then there's this anonymous. I got to mention this anonymous letter. That could be written by a Democrat. It's an anonymous letter. And it says that her daughter, it was written by a mother. Her daughter, she said that her daughter and several friends had been drinking at the bar in Washington, D.C. They left the bar under the influence of alcohol, losing inhibitions, memory lapse, and absence of true long-term memory. So is it really the person's fault, or is it also, do they play a role in the events happening, if they happen, or were they created, and did the mother implant those memories in her kid?
There is serious room for doubt in what is going on here.
I think there's a lot of doubt, but I do believe that a lot of these ladies that are coming forth had some type of sexual abuse in the past. So I believe what they're saying is the truth, but I don't believe it relates to Kavanaugh.
And that's, of course, the salient point that we wanted to take away
that's
from
a conspiracy.
Before, now, let me ask you, and the thing is, governments tend to lie and lie routinely. We know this because it's populated with people that try to maintain power. All right, that's just all there is to it. And we have to maintain power. We have to maintain control. We have to keep we the sheeple anesthetized.
Yeah, here's a good hypnotic tool.
Exactly here. Is there a possibility that what we may have been witness to was actually a deep state operation in which there is such a political push to not have a tilt in there that we end up having, we know what the CIA does. The CIA will routinely overthrow governments, and we're not supposed to talk about that.
This could be a federal government conspiracy to hypnotize people, to make them suggestible to things that are not the truth, and to create almost like an uproar, almost like a vigilante conspiracy, where everyone now is doubting the credibility. Not everyone, but a lot of people. And this could have been put on by the government or people that have certain motives of not getting him in for one reason or another. Absolutely could be a government way of manipulating the mind.
All right. Final question I have for you here, Tom. And by the way, TomSilver.com, if you wanted to find out more about it, your day business. And I appreciate you coming in and talking about it. I always love our talks. I really do. And we need to do this a bit more often.
Yes.
We had a lot of conversation this morning about the marijuana issues in Southern Oregon and cannabis, and I didn't vote for it, but people outvoted me, and yet I know people that are, including yours truly. I've enjoyed some cannabinoid oils on pain issues, and it's been very, very helpful. The question we have, though, is for young people.
Yes.
And what is the science, as far as you're concerned, when it comes to the cannabis intoxication or the suggestibility? What goes on with that? You wanted to mention something about that.
Well, I think cannabis intoxication or smoking weed or whatever you want to call it alters consciousness. Number one, weed is a depressant, so it doesn't build you up and motivate you. It drops you down, and it puts you into a hypersuggestible sensitive state, meaning you're more prone for depression, lack of focus and concentration, a less control of motor movements, motor responses, and at the same time, memory becomes distorted. Therefore, students under marijuana can't retain memory and can't study well. But the other thing is it creates these new neural pathways where the smoking of the weed becomes the normal, and living life without marijuana creates a lot of negative side effects and withdrawals.
The abnormal. That's the abnormal effect. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe that with the uses of marijuana with young people, they used to talk about it being a gateway drug, and it used to be a great gateway drug because then they want to ump the ante of the feeling. So then they might go to the opiates or the heroin and things like that. But I do believe that the THC is one of the strongest addictive chemicals that has not been come out yet with scientific medical research. And even a lot of doctors will say a lot more research needs to take place on the negative side effects of marijuana or cannabis or the THC, just like other drugs.
And we're pretty familiar with the negative side effects of alcohol, which has been more culturally acceptable.
Right.
And we know about that also being a depressant, a contaminant of memory, as we have been talking about the last 40 minutes.
And one other thing, I was talking to a fire captain a while back, and there are a lot more car accidents, a lot more deaths, because people driving under the influence of marijuana. So their motor responses and their reflex behavior has all been shut down in that state. And they're in a hypersuggestible state. So, hey, let's get everyone in the country under the influence of marijuana, and let's program them. Let's put in what we want to put in. Get them to eat foods, get them to do all kinds of stuff, because we've already hypnotized them through the chemical.
All right. Appreciate the take on it, Tom. Always good talking with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for this discussion of memory and contaminated memory and so much more.
Thanks for having me.
It's a great conspiracy theory guest.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Tom. TomSilver.com, 823 at KMED, KCMD. State Senator Herman Bertschiger, standing by for him. We're going to have a good conversation about his experience in D.C. I don't know if his memory has been contaminated or not. We'll talk with him about it next.
The best value for Northwest families is at Weimar. Grab everyone's favorite coupon book for our latest savings.